But I'm Julie Kelly. I'm the convener of the Community Engagement Committee. And so I'm so very happy that one of the folks that we do business with and work with are the speakers today. So Eric Hensel is the principal of Emerson Dual Language School. How many folks have driven by that and know where it is? Whoa, I'm impressed. Good. Okay, so walking distance, except not on a day like today. Okay. So Eric is in his first year as principal, although he's very experienced. He's been 7 years as an administrator and 20 years in education. And he is joined by assistant principal Liliana Rodriguez, and she is in her 25th year in education. And Molly, who just introduced herself as a parent, but indeed she is also the co-president of the Bilingual Education Collective for the Minneapolis Public Schools, and we'll hear more about that later on. As some of you I'm sure know, we have 3 educational partners right in our neighborhood. Emerson being the closest one, Minneapolis College maybe the next closest, that MCTC and changed its name rather recently to Minneapolis College, and then Dunwoody, which is a few blocks away. And we've had a relationship with Emerson for 2 years, a little more than 2 years maybe, and we're always trying to think of new ways that we can know what they do and support what they do. So we'll have a lot to hear about today, and hopefully we'll have some ideas afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you for braving the cold and coming out here today. It was a cold day for us too, but there's no school, so it makes us able to be in the moment and not worry about what's happening back in the building. So very excited to be with you all today. We're going to talk a little bit about the title of the presentation is called Bridging the Gaps, and it's really talking about how community support has helped Emerson serve its population now and will continue to happen in the future. Thanks to, in part, support from the Women's Club, our community partners, kind of how community partners are filling the role that in the past maybe schools have filled on their own. And I'm going to pass to Assistant Principal Liliana Rodriguez. We'll talk a little bit about her journey.
Hi everyone, I'm Liliana. As all you wonderful women have your own story behind, how you've been here. So I have my own story as well. So I'm originally from Venezuela, South America. So after graduating from college, I received a scholarship to come to Hamlin University to study my master in education. That was the beginning of my story in the US. I started passing the baton. My mom was a professor, my dad was a professor, so teaching has been my DNA since day one. So that passion for teaching, I started growing here as a professional in the US. That's my wonderful family in the middle. That was me at the beginning. My husband also got a scholarship. We both were, in that privilege to get a scholarship to the US. I came to study. Besides being a mother and a wife and an educator for life, also love to do music around and play.
Okay. Do you want to go to your?
Oh, I would think it was. Yeah, I'm sorry. So my passion for education brought me to this point to be assistant principal at Emerson Dual Language School. So here is the pathway. So coming from Minnesota, double major, one in math, the other in learning disabilities. And then Hamlin University, the University of Minnesota, I got my specialization, dual language, immersion education, bilingual education. And then my administrator license, and this is my first year as an administrator. But I always say, my heart, I always forever a teacher. In that way, I can identify with my teachers and the community and the kids. So I'm gonna pass to Eric. He's gonna tell you a little bit more who he is.
So we're right about at the halfway point of the year, the school year, and in the past, maybe a week or 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting with the superintendent, Dr. Sales Adams, who asked me, was just kind of checking in, see how the first year is going as a principal. And one of the questions she asked me was, she says, what is your highlight of the year been so far? What's the best moment so far? And my answer was October 11th is really a day. And it was Emerson's Hispanic Heritage Celebration at the school. And it really kind of symbolizes all of the parts about coming into a school that's got a strong community. It's got a lot of traditions in it and kind of bringing in their own skills. So the day started with all of the students having a parade all around the perimeter of the school, wearing soccer jerseys or shirts, bringing flags from their own countries, their own cultures, kind of all of them being recognized and celebrated. Once students finished, we had a presentation in the courtyard. We have some connections in the community of Aztec dancers, so they performed. Presented to the students, we had school board member Adriana Cedillo who came, addressed the crowd. So kind of all of the traditions, all of the community connections that we're kind of coming into. Then once students were in the school, we had a presentation for students where Liliana and another community member were playing different rhythms for the students with the Emerson theme. It was just, and I remember being there at 6 o'clock, like setting up the sound, setting up the microphones and things like that. And it was really just all of our skills, kind of, this is what the day is. The community has these traditions, the community has the school, or the community has all of these connections. We're kind of bringing our skills into it. So it has been a blast to be the principal at Emerson. I was a teacher for 10 years before I came into Emerson in the elementary level. So I love being with kids. And some of my pictures didn't make it up here, but so I am in this upcoming, at the end of this month, will be my 20th year in education. I started in February as a teacher in Argentina. I got my master's in second languages and cultures in 2007, and I was a Spanish teacher, a K-5 Spanish teacher for 10 years in Apple Valley. I came to the district in 2018. I've been a high school administrator and a middle school administrator before I've been back in home. So it has been a blast to be at Emerson. I've loved working with Liliana and seeing all the community partners, the support that I think all the community has provided to Emerson, I think has been a real highlight of my year working with Emerson so far. So we're gonna do, before we kind of move into a little bit more about Emerson, a little bit more presentation about us. So when I was a teacher, got a lot of mileage out of this game. This is a game that we call Estudiante Secreto, but we'll change it for us called Administrador Secreto, so the secret administrator. And we're going to describe one of us and want you to guess which administrator we're describing. So if you think we're talking about me, this is your ASL test here. So this is E. If you think I'm talking about me, everyone do E for Eric. If you think I'm describing Liliana, you're going to do an L for Liliana. And if you think it's both of us, you can do both. I won't be able to do that with the mic in my hand. So, okay. So E, L, or E and L. Okay. So the first question. Which Emerson administrator is a recording artist who currently has songs on Spotify and Apple Music? Okay. E, L, or E and L? Okay. It is Liliana. My pictures did not come up here.
You gotta find it.
I gotta reload my pictures up here, but okay. Okay. Which Emerson administrator has coached co-ed soccer? Is it E, L, or EL? It is me. There's me giving my kids high fives, coaching co-ed soccer. Did I play soccer as a kid? No. I'm making connections with students. This is the classes from my middle school time. Which Emerson administrator is an avid biker and has biked 100 miles in a day several times? E, L, or EL? This is me. And there's my 75-year-old dad. So my dad and I go on biking trips. So he's retired, so he's even in better biking shape than me. So. Okay, which Emerson administrator has sung with a live band in the past year? E, L, or EL? It is both. Good question. So this is me with my staff band at the middle school for fundraising. So okay, last one. Has anyone gotten all of them right so far? Who's at 100%? Is 100%? Last one. Which Emerson administrator paints with acrylics? E-L or E-L? Okay. It is Liliana. Okay. So the next part here, I want to just talk about some of the challenges that Minneapolis Public Schools faces, and then I'll kind of what that looks like at Emerson. Especially in the past, probably 3 to 5 years, there have been some challenges that have affected the funds that Emerson received. So, for example, there have been funds that in the past years, they were called ESSER funds or maybe COVID funds that schools use to provide additional support. Emerson used these funds to support students who are not at grade level for reading or math. And this funded 6 to 9 different positions in Emerson. Those funds have run out, so a lot of that infrastructure has gone away. So we've been facing some cuts due to federal programming that's been ending in Emerson. I think also overall enrollment drops in the district in the past 5 years. Actually, at the elementary level, we've been stable or growing a little bit, but at Minneapolis, at the middle school level and the high school level, there have been drops in the past years. That kind of the way funding works at the school district is every student who is in that building provides a certain level of funds for programming. Sometimes that gets spread out throughout the district, but there have been overall drops, and that affects the money that goes to the buildings. I think also expenses that have outpaced state funding. So salaries for all employees have gone up. The funding has not generally kept pace with that. So kind of all 3 of those end up meaning that there have been reductions of funds to schools in Minneapolis. So what does that look like for Emerson? We have reduced funds. First of all, it means reduced staff. So probably from the past 3 to 5 years to now, we've had a reduction of about 10 to 15 staff, 10 to 15% of staff. And what that also means is generally the people that are in the building have to do additional responsibilities. So I think, for example, in our main office, so our main office as a secretary, and as in the past, when I first started, the role became office assistant. But that role for the office assistant, that person also does now test coordinating. They also do lunchroom supervision, and they also coordinate transportation. So a lot of things in the buildings that used to maybe have 1 or 2 dedicated people, now those roles are spread amongst other people. For example, Liliana and I, kind of the community liaison, it's a role that's not funded, so we do a lot of communication to our families, a lot of communication to the community. In the past, you might have somebody that was dedicated to do that, but those roles aren't funded right now. So everyone's kind of just picking up new skills, learning new skills to do things that in the past was a specialized program. There's been a little bit of reduction in programming as well. For example, some schools in the past might have had a full-time media specialist, full-time librarian. Right now, Emerson shares their librarian with one other school. So they still get it. They don't get it as much as they might if they were there at the time. And then larger class sizes. So, for example, in the past, Emerson used to have 4 of a grade level, 4 teachers that were teaching 2nd grade, 4 teachers teaching 3rd grade. This year, there's only 3, but there's the same amount of kids. So if you do the math, that just means that those kids need to go somewhere, so they go to the remaining classes. Also, some of the funds that we use to support family events, supply funds, those funds aren't available. So the Women's Club in particular has been helping out some of our event funds, supporting when we have our monthly FA, PTO meetings. When we came in, I'm sure you've seen as well, some of the fundraisers for school supplies. In the past, schools might have been able to cover that. We have less funds to do that. So we're appreciative up until now about how Women's Club and the community has helped us sort of bridge the gaps that we've not been able to be funded for up until now. Okay. So despite some of the challenges, talk about some of the successes, and I'll pass that to Liliana.
This is the highlight after hearing all the bad news. So our dual language program, our Emerson, We're so proud of our community and the legacy of Emerson. Why do we say that? Because we are one of the pioneer bilingual education in the state of Minnesota. So I would say we are the first one that was funded in Minnesota. We feel so proud to have that legacy and continue to do the work, even getting better and better. Legacy of leadership, we have, as consequence, we have many generations of students already in the workforce, and doors are open to them because are bilingual, and they're making the mark in our society. Experienced teaching staff, we are one of the school, I think it was the most retention, so we don't offer too many teaching positions because our teachers stay with us and they have the expertise and they have the, love for teaching that they can, go beyond their duties from 7 to 3. That's our schedule. We also have a dual language program that promotes biliteracy and bilingualism. And this is we are the beginning, we are this, we take care of the seeds, though giving the foundation to the little one for them to continue in their journey to become bilingual person is a lifelong learning experience. I am still learning, I am still improving my English, there's always a new word. In the same way for a student when they learn a new language, it never ends. So it's a lifelong experience that will transform their life and they will create impact wherever they go. We also have a collaborative leadership as part of the, Molly will speak more to that. As part of the dual language program in Minneapolis Public School, we have 2 partner schools, elementary school, that do the same program as us, and they follow the same kind of standard we do. And we are Green Central, and we have Las Estrellas in Northeast Minneapolis. And Green Center is located in South Minneapolis. And we also have a collaboration with middle school and high school pathway. I'm only going to speak more to that. So this is part of the highlights. We could feel a slide there of 20, 100 of all the highlights. We had a wonderful community, wonderful family, wonderful kids and teachers. So.
So the next part here, I think when I first came into Emerson, one of the pieces I noticed, I was at a middle school before I was at Emerson, and I was surprised at how small the size is of the building. Emerson's, it's an old building, and I think now some of the amenities that a more modern school might have, Emerson, that was an idea that they had when they built the school in the 1920s. So it doesn't really have an auditorium, doesn't really have like a big meeting space that some schools, some schools maybe district they don't have. But the way how Emerson has kind of navigated those challenges has been reaching out to the community. So for example, we use music box theater sometimes when we have big presentations. We partner with organizations that help us kind of bridge some of those gaps. So this next part right here is going to be kind of a little bit of chance for people just to interact and engage with a neighbor. So when we do presentations at school, we always talk about elbow partners. So I'm going to give you talk to your elbow partner, someone in your that's sitting by you. But just talk, and I'm going to give you 2 or 3 minutes to talk about how have you brought your skills and gifts to volunteering in the past. So what have you done? How have you helped? It can be school, it can be anywhere. But volunteering, bringing your skills and gifts to volunteering. So I'm gonna give you about 3 minutes. Just turn and find somebody to talk to, and then we'll kind of connect back here. Find someone and share your skills and gifts right.
You might be president someday. How many kids are there? How many of them? They want to reading, they want to. Yeah. We should say about 50. Yeah, but right now. About that. We are around 530. 33K, so yeah, we have one section of K, one grade to fifth grade. Fifth. Fifth, yeah, oh, you have to be sick. But I haven't heard your gift in these. These are good questions. And I.
There's some great stories to people sharing. There's, give yourself about 20 seconds and finish your conversation. And we'll kind of all be back in a large group.
You don't have to speak French for long, no. Okay.
Finish up your conversation. If you hear me, put your hand on your head. If you hear me, comb your hair. Okay. Thank you all for sharing. I'm gonna just turn the mic over to anyone in the crowd. Is there anyone who'd like to share either something that they shared or something that they heard about a very strong, a very good way that they were volunteering? Share something they heard or something they said.
We were more interested, our group was more interested in this community organizer.
That's right.
They didn't talk the topic.
My name is Delia. I worked as a volunteer through the junior league for most of my young and middle life. And those skills enhanced my ideas about being a volunteer. But I got tired of being the head of every organization that I was part of. And I went back to graduate school to become a therapist. And my next volunteering was very helpful to have those skills because I was able to help the organization in a more professional manner.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else want to share anything they said or heard?
Okay, I'm trained to be a teacher, and that really influenced most of my volunteer work because I loved working with kids and with adults, actually, people of all ages. And you can use your teaching skills so easily. Jenna brought that up to me. She said, well, teaching, if you're a teacher, you have so many skills that you can use in volunteering. And I hadn't thought about it that way, but I agree. And then I became involved because I love working with people in our church and doing a lot of volunteering with children's ministries and families. And then I went on to become a docent at MIA. And again, using my teaching skills with a new subject area, the art. And so it's kind of a combination. I think when you volunteer, you learn so much because you are exposed to so many different areas. And yeah, it's been a good ride. And of course, at the women's club, well, I gotta include that because that has definitely now, after I retired, helped so much in keeping me involved in volunteer opportunities.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else? Sharon? Well, one of the things I heard Linda say when I was in her group is something that I always like to do. She said, I'm one of the people that will always show up for those people. And that is a great, just, you know, showing up, helping out. She said she was also a docent too, but I always look for those opportunities, you know, even though I'm an administrator, my son also goes to Minneapolis Public Schools. He goes to Greens, one of the other dual language schools. And I just like some of those things where you just show up and help out, lift out, you know, just be in those places. Sometimes they want, you know, they love people who have the organization skills and the planning skills, and sometimes they just need people to show up and be helpers and help people. So like there's kind of room for all skills and all gifts in volunteering. So the next piece here, we'll kind of talk about how the community has helped Emerson, and I'll do some pieces here, and then I'll share with Molly as well. I'll have Molly doing a couple, just give some additional context as well. You know, I had said earlier when I came in that despite Emerson's size and despite its reduced staff, the community is really what has lifted up Emerson. So both in what are the experiences we can provide for the students and the support we can provide for the students. So for example, volunteering as reading buddies, and I think even a volunteer coordinator is in the past a position that a building might be able to fund. Even our volunteer coordinator is kind of is a community member that's helping coordinator volunteers that come in to do reading buddies, reading in English or Spanish with their students during the day. Our amazing garden outside of the building on 15th Street. Women's Club helped support that in the past summer. Donations of school supplies, supporting schools events, special schools events. So donations of student snacks and food for our family monthly meetings. So every month we have our site council and we have our PTO meetings. And Women's Club has generously been providing food for some of those pieces. A lot of times, you know, food is what kind of gets the community together. It's a special invitation to have the community come and join in some of those pieces, and Women's Club has helped been providing food in the past. A school might be able to fund all of those all of that expense on their own, but the community, for example, and Women's Club has been helping provide, kind of been helping fill those gaps. So I'm gonna pass to Molly, and Molly is she says, I'm a parent at Emerson. She's a super parent at Emerson. She coordinates both our buildings, what we call FA, but our buildings PTO, our buildings parent organization, and then coordinates all of the dual language organizations in Minneapolis. So all of the 3 elementary schools, the middle school, and the high school. And really, that is really something new for me. I think if you look at Minneapolis 7 to 10 years ago, there's not much connection with what the dual language kids did in 5th grade to 6th grade. And then there was not even really a functional high school program. So I think really trying to build this piece and try to build that community connection between the schools. You know, we have a big soccer tournament at the end of the year. We just have opportunities. We had some high schoolers that came in from Roosevelt High School, who was our dual high school, to come support us and volunteer with us last week. And Molly has really been key in organizing that and has skills with connecting with the community that, you know, certainly I can learn from, I think, in some of those places. So I'm gonna just give her a chance to kind of talk through some of her experiences with Women's Club. And Molly, I'll let you pass through it. You guys, Molly, put some amazing pictures up here, so.
All right, so who recognizes these people up here? Yeah, so one major way, just like Eric said, that Women's Club, I know when I first met Kevin when he was voting at our school, our students were there with a table, maybe you've seen them selling popcorn. Who votes at Emerson? Just you? And you too? Okay, so maybe you've seen them with the Colectiva Bilingüe tablecloth selling popcorn. But it was a day in November, 2 years ago, when Kevin walked in to vote with Nadine, and we happened to have a conversation and started talking about Emerson's needs for more funds, because we had made this big shift in trying to gain a more representative family participation in our school. Although our school is about 70% Latino, the participation is usually more like 70% white families in the past. And so we said, this is not representative. This is not getting everybody who could contribute to our community a way in. And I said, one way that's really important for families to have a voice in our school is the site council. The site council advises our leaders on budget, and it was very poorly attended. My husband was one of 4 members on it. And I said, what would bring people is having food. And so when I first met Kevin, I said, I researched the Women's Club as a neighbor before I even met him. And I said, I know that your history is really rooted in bringing food and healthy nutrition to schools. And what food can do for a community is bring a more representative participation out to our meetings that may seem boring, right? But are actually a really important place to have empowered family voice in our schools. So ever since that conversation, we started to have our site council meetings, followed by dinner, and then our PTA. I don't like to call it that because it's more than a traditional parent-teacher association. It's more like the community connection. And our meetings are not like this, like me talking to you like this right now. We try to make it a conversation. And so it's usually like at different tables. Sometimes it looks more like a party. This coming month, it looks like a resource fair. And so we have a lot of community organizations coming in to participate. And so ever since we've had the food that was initially only provided by Women's Club, we've been able to draw a lot more participation, a lot more representative participation to our site council to make the big decisions with the budget in the district and other ones as well. And we've had a lot more participation of Latino families at these monthly community meetings or parties. And so that's been a huge success. And I want you to know that it's not just about providing food, it's about changing who has a voice in our schools and who's empowered and engaged and valued in their students' education. And it couldn't be done without feeding our teachers too, because if we can love our teachers, they love the students, and it's all trickle down. And so this is a picture of when you all provided some conference snacks for our teachers. They work very long 12-hour days, sometimes on conference days, and it's really nice to have a sweet treat in the morning. We also have in May, we'll be collaborating on Teacher Appreciation Week, which is a whole week in the first week of May. And we'll have the 5 love languages. So food, touch, all the things, and we'll collaborate on that. But also we have a summer camp that's 2 years long now. We've been doing this for 2 years, and the first year of our summer camp, for students who are new to the country, Kevin invited all of the families and students after they had spent a overnight camping, like their first Minnesota camp experience, to have a welcome home meal, like a very fancy meal, banquet you could call it, right? A reception, where families got to receive their students who had been away camping in tents for their first Minnesota camp experience. And they were reunited here, and the parents met the students on the steps of the Women's Club when they came back in buses and all shared a meal together. So food is much more than just feeding the volunteers or feeding the teachers. It's creating community and bringing us together. Here are some pictures of how Kevin and Nadine mostly have been people who've come to our community events. So we have a couple food trucks that are owned by our parents in our school. Tacos at Kevin And this food truck, the food bank in the back, we've been able to use some women's club money to invest in businesses that are run by our families. And so that's another way that we've kind of shifted our relationship with the women's club. Instead of having women's club go to Cub Foods and get some, or go to get some donuts, we've taken funds and been able to invest in community-run businesses to support our bigger family events. And so that's something that we really want to keep this community and support each other. So funds also can create community, and you're always welcome to come to our events. It's a good time, and you can see Kevin having a lot of fun. Maybe you know our former principal, Jim, up here in the middle. We all are very friendly. And then here are some other upcoming events. So on Monday, we're going to have, this is what a monthly meeting looks like here on the right. Our resource fair is really just our monthly meeting, but because we do this community care so well, we've actually had requests from across Minneapolis Public Schools to invite other schools to our resource fair. And look how many community organizations have now reached out to us and said, please, can we offer these resources to your community? And so we're going to have Immigrant Law Center talking about Know Your Rights. We're going to have a chance to become a buddy family. And so this is a way that families within our school can provide community care to each other by being in a relationship with a newcomer family and an established family to help navigate all of the barriers in our society to navigating life in a new country. And that's also something, along with, we have these international teaching assistants who are hosted by families in our community. These are all ways that our community takes care of each other, and we would like to extend that to all of you. We also this year made lawn signs. I don't know if anybody, I know most people around here live in apartments, but does anybody here have a lawn where they would put a lawn sign? You do? Okay, so we have a limited edition. Got to come to school to get it. I should have brought some. But we have some lawn signs that just promote our community. And imagine if we could have a whole city with all of these supporters for our dual language school network, right? There's 2,400 kids in these 5 school network, plus all of our friends. We could really make a statement for how important this is in terms of an investment in our city and how many friends we have having our backs, right? So we have these lawn signs that has a QR code to our Colectiva Bilingüe website. And then lots of opportunities to volunteer, like Eric mentioned. Thanks to community support, we actually started recycling in our cafeteria. We have a community member who dresses up as a recycling bin. She got a costume on Amazon, and she dresses up as a blue recycling bin and helps kids in the morning figure out what goes in the recycling, what goes in the trash, how do we not contaminate the recycling as we dump our milk in the milk thing and put our food in the thing. You know, she's an expert, but it's a lot of work. So if you are passionate about recycling, we have a job for you. If you love gardening, we have a job for you. If you love reading, and my friend here, and former teacher, you don't have to speak Spanish. The amazing thing, if you've ever spoken Spanish before, or if you're interested in learning, is having a student read to you in Spanish, and then you can say, what did you just say? And they can do that language crossing in their brain, which really helps the bilingual brain make connections between languages and tell you in the other language what they just read about. And that's a huge service to you, to get that exposure, to get that relationship with a child and learning how to read and having a one-to-one person listen to them and give them feedback, and also for their bilingual brains to make connections. So you're welcome to be reading buddies as well. Teachers tell us when kids are reading, and we come on and provide support in giving kids more feedback, more individual attention, because sadly, our reading interventionists were also cut with the budget cuts. So in a class, my student is in a class of 28 students. You can imagine the chance to read one-on-one with an adult outside the home does not get to happen very much. So, and then here's some more examples. One thing that we didn't mention on that wheel is the Women's Club has also donated space. Colectiva Bilingüe has had some of our most impactful board meetings in your boardroom. And our board is really changing. Just like our values say that we want this representative Latino participation, our board now includes teachers. We have most of our board meetings in Spanish. They're hybrid to make sure that there's no barriers to participation. And we've been able to gather in your beautiful space. And we really feel official with an organization of a lot of people who've never been on a board before, who are new to the country as well, and are feeling like this is a formal place to do business and to run an organization that's reputable. And then this is our garden. When this is like how overflowing it was by the time we came back to school in September. So last year we had summer camp at Emerson, and the kids were eating and cooking and gardening and weeding and taking care of the garden in June and July. And then you all did it in August. And then we came back in September to a huge amount of cherry tomatoes and basil. But this summer, all of our students are going to be at Green Central, one of our other partner schools for camp. And the building is going to be empty June, July, and August. So we're really going to need some help. We would love for our families and you all to come and garden and weed and also reap the harvest. But our school is a magnet school, so not all of our families live very close to the school. We draw from the whole city. And so sometimes that's a barrier to being able to work in the garden and come for 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. If you all are already at the club, you could just jump over and take home the harvest, right? And then we have a whole crew of parents. These are some of our other parent leaders. And in the past, you all helped us pay for snack during the school day. You'd think the district would pay for this, but actually we only get snack from our district 3 days a week. And 2 days a week, we have some students who eat lunch at 10:30 in the morning and are 10 in the morning and are very hungry for the rest of the day, right? So with additional funds from the Women's Club, we order in bulk, actually from our district. We order in bulk, 535 students need snack, okay? One snack for the school costs a little over $200. We get a deal, right? And then we get it in these big boxes, and we still have to divide it up in these bags so that kids can come and grab it and take it to their class. So that's another job that if somebody was to really have firsthand contact with that snack that you all help us provide and put it in these bags, if we get something like apples, they also have to be washed. So we usually get packaged foods instead, but you know, we could always decide. That's another way that you can participate, and packing snacks in the morning is a great community bonding experience. And finally, reading buddies. This is what I mentioned before. Just 30 minutes a week or less. Sometimes it's very early in the morning if you're an early riser, okay? Maybe not. Our school starts at 7:30. And so reading in the morning is something that teachers, as students are coming in at different times from the buses, some students will be doing independent work, some students need some individual support. And so anywhere from 7:30 until 2, when our school day ends, we have times to sign up to be a reading buddy. Books are provided. So I think this is where I turn it back over.
Thank you, Molly. So I think before we kind of just connect, just talk about action, there's a lot of things that you have heard, just a lot of opportunities to volunteer, a lot of opportunities to help out in Emerson. Let's review, what are some things that you remember hearing? I can think of 6 at least. What are some of the ways, just call out, what are some ways that you've heard Molly present for opportunities to volunteer? Reading buddies, gardening, packaging snacks, right? Gardening. Okay, so kind of our closing here is kind of the calling to action, right? So what again, maybe with the person or the group that you connected before, what is the one way that we have a need that you think would line up best with a skill or a gift that you have? So kind of just right now, turn to the same people that you talked to before. What is one way you can commit to bringing your gifts or skills helping Emerson that maybe lines up with something you've done in the past or something that would interest you? You've got a minute to kind of connect with someone and you think.
Yeah, I am. Pretty close to it, you know, it's great by 50%. It's near them.
It's not getting closer to.
That area.
Okay.
Usually. Yeah. Yeah, before my job was something with. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The one that was. We have. Yeah, but. It's happened. Yeah.
Finish up your conversation in about 20 seconds, please. Give me the mic.
I am so impressed that you're all here today. Congratulations on your Minnesota resilience. And I am wondering if you could give us a tour sometime. Could you set that up? Because, you know, getting into a school could be something we haven't done in a while.
Yeah, that is a great idea. We do tours for families. We do tours for family every Friday. So instead of doing that, I think the best thing for you is to come when there's students you can kind of see how the magic happens, essentially. So I think what I'll do is we'll connect with the Women's Club and give you a couple potential dates to do that. And so, yeah, once it warms up. Yeah, and to go and see through the spaces, I think it's very interesting when you go into a space and you see kindergartners that are speaking, you know, they're having a lesson in one language and they're transferring it over to the other language, you know. I'm not sure your language learning background experience, but I did not start learning language, I was way older than that. So to see kids that are learning that really young, it's pretty fascinating to see. So the call to action, so the opportunity, once we connect up in the lunch space, there is going to be a poster board that's going to have opportunities for actually how to do these things, how to register, how to sign up, how to actually, okay, I'm interested, I've got something that I've noticed, this is how you do it. So there'll be a poster board up there to register. Yeah.
Sometimes when we think about our gift and how it can support, one of the one we never mentioned, but it's a very important one, is the advocacy piece on passing the voice. So if you know somebody that can support the school, just let them know, you know, Emerson is close to the Women's Club and they're looking for volunteer. That is a plus as well. That's a way to help and build bridges and bring more people to our community. So feel free, if you don't feel at the moment, sometimes I don't feel like volunteer, like my skill can match that, but just being the advocacy, you know, that person up there telling others, inviting others, that's a plus. So anything helps.
So, I'm curious about background checks required for reading buddies.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's a good question, broad one.
So
I mean, not that I'm gonna show up at 7:30 and be one.
yeah, that's a very good question. So district policy is if adults are working unsupervised with students, they do need to do a background check. So that's a safety procedure that's for everyone in every building. if you are volunteering in a different space, you don't need to do that. So the reason that the reason reading buddies require a background check is because it's student contact and you're not supervised. And unsupervised is even if you're in the hallway, that's still how it's counted unsupervised. So if you're in the classroom supporting, that would not require a background check. So
But we
That's the
can
question.
facilitate that. Minneapolis Public Schools does that, so you just fill out a short form and they'll do it. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do
yeah,
it.
it's an online immediate response. Yeah.
Another question. How big are your class sizes? I remember way back when, being in a class of 42 students.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, it wasn't a problem, but I'm sure others in the class suffered.
So our class sizes range from 25, 26 at the kindergarten level to 30 at the fourth and fifth grade. But the fourth grade has a little bit more. Fourth grade is maybe the 30. And then fifth grade is maybe 26, 27. So we don't have anyone in the 40s, not even anyone really in the low 30s. It is a change from us from last year to this year, but compared to some of the Minneapolis public schools, some we've heard of really high levels. So we're compared to some of our peers and compared to historical precedent, we're not as bad as we could be. And I would say our teachers have all, it was a little bit of a shock when we saw some of the numbers. We have really prided ourselves on providing additional staff support, so non-licensed staff support. And I think this year has gone better than people were fearing. They've handled it well. So, but that's thanks to the additional support that we're providing to classes.
I hate to even bring this up, but are your students traumatized that they might just be kidnapped from the class and sent back to their country? I mean, how is that working out right now? And also the possible lack of funding there's a lot of changes going on in our society right now. And I'm sure it's going to affect you and your work and those precious little children that who knows what's going to happen.
Sure.
Yes, sadly, yeah, that's happening already. We have. We have families that are very, afraid to even come out of their home. We had kids already missing classes because of being afraid that something might happen between. There's a lot of, despair, loss of hope for many of our families. Many of them already went through too much. I always say that in all the spaces because sometimes people wonder, okay, it might be a legal way to come, but sadly, Central America, South America, our oppressed population they don't have even a chance to get embassy appointment to request a visa. So there's a majority of population out there that they don't have any other choice. And they're just running away from being displayed for drug cartels or being displayed for, sometimes their life. They say, you don't leave this place 24 hours, will kill you all. So they just grab the babies, and they go for months walking. So sometimes, without being political or anything like that, it's just a human need to offer a better future for your family and your close people by. So we have many of the families in that situation. We're trying to create a warming environment and sending out a lot of messages, let them know we're here for you. We feel you, you can count on us. We won't let anything, our power to happen to you, but of course there are different factors we cannot control. It's a difficult situation for many of our families. We continue to offer, support we even create a special teacher called Yellow that say United we can make it, or United we can. Juntos Podemos. Yeah, United we can. To send that message to our family, we're here for you. We support you. Calling us, but it's been difficult times. Yeah.
And I would say, in terms of funding, I'd say we're kind of hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. A lot of schools' funds actually are state and local funds. So at least for this year, a significant amount of our funds are more state and local funds rather than federal funds. I don't know what next year's federal fund is gonna look like. I would say, when we're kind of gaming out what the funding position looked like for this year, and we don't know what this year's funding looks like currently. This year's funding would look the same regardless of who the current president would have been. But even then, I think there are funding challenges. So I think we're always trying to figure out what is this gonna look like with reduced staff. And I think in the future, we're kind of thinking the same thing. So always trying to like prepare ourselves for multiple scenarios. And then if it turns out that federal funds are in the future are affecting additional support positions, then sort of leaning more on your community to kind of continue to fill those gaps. So I think, if it turns out there's additional federal fund reduction in the future, we would be better placed than some of our peers because we already have those community relationships, I think, in place. So. I prefer to think this optimism, so.
I'm Christina, I'm on staff here. I used to live across the street from Emerson Elementary School in the red apartments. And so for years, I got to watch your garden grow. And throughout the pandemic, when I was working from home, I also got to see all the kids and everything too. So I just want to say thank you for all the good work you're doing with kids, with families. And I come from a family of educators and I know how hard that is day in and day out, but having time to know that this good community connecting work is happening and has been for so long feels really bright and optimistic to me too. So keep asking us because we're right down the street and we want to keep showing up too. And I will just say to folks who are here too, if anyone wants to organize some garden walks this summer, let me know, we can do that. So I just want to say thank you.
Here. Oh, and we could have it. Even better, so. Well, thank you all for coming on the whole day to connect with us. We look forward to seeing you at the lunch further, and then we'll be in connection further about tours and see you all supporting future events. But value our relationship with Women's Club, and thank you all for coming up today.
Yeah, okay. So